It's joined by Terry. What's happening, Terry?
You all right, mate?
What are you up to?
Man, I had to go get some food. Obviously, like I said in the message, just hungry. So you know, better fed now, mate. So I feel able to talk. I wouldn't have been able to talk before that, mate. So how are you? How was New Year's Eve and all that?
Brilliant, mate. Well, I'm just glad not to wake up in a police cell. You know what I'm like when I go out. If you don't wake up in a police cell over Christmas where I'm from, or in DRI, in accident and emergencies, it's a good
Yeah,
Christmas New Year. So yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I went out for a run this morning. I've trained. I've swam. Had a steam. So it's all good stuff in it.
yeah, man. You need to get yourself an appointment with Doctor Uz this year, mate.
You know what? Number one, Dr. Oz. Then I've got Dennis McCann and then Fury, all that. But number one, Dr. Oz. What's going on here with this guy? What is this guy's role? And why are people not speaking about him? And why is he in the thick of it?
Well, okay, so mate, let's be honest. Doctor Uz isn't the problem here because he just does his job. He's a doctor, right? And he does doctory things. The problem is the people who go to him. That's the real issue. Dr. Uz is free to do what he wants. If someone comes to him and says, I'm hypogonadal, he might run a few tests and go, right, you need to take this stuff, help you fill in a TUE. But it's the athlete that's going there for the exact reasons they're going to him for. Do you know what I mean? Like, why is it? Like, we've all got a GP, right, Russ? You know, we move
Yeah.
someone new, we register with a GP, family registers with a GP. And ideally, you stay with that GP for a long time because they know you. Why would I then do that and then go and find a doctor in Liverpool? Like that doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense,
Crazy,
does it?
innit? Crazy, innit?
Yeah. So Doctor Us for me is not the problem. It's that people go to him and that it's an open secret in boxing. Oh, you need something, you go and see Doctor Us, he'll look after you. That's the problem.
Well, he were all over Fury's social media. Conor Benz. Has he been advising Dennis McCann? Somebody's told me.
Yeah, there's a picture of them together.
Yeah, but nobody's coming out speaking about it though, are they?
But well, he's not a license holder, so they can't.
Hmm.
It's like, look, if you got young kids in boxing taking coke, we're not going to name the dealer, are we?
No.
Because it's not the dealer's fault. The dealer just provides a service that anyone can use. Like you, in theory, can go to Doctor Uz and you could get whatever you need, but you're not a licensed athlete. Do you see what I mean? So his service isn't harmful to to anyone listening to this right now. His service is harmful when you're in a sport where you're not supposed to take some of this stuff.
Well, something's been going on, and he's in the thick of it, in him.
I reckon if he started talking, I think boxing would implode, mate. If he sat down one day and said, "Okay, I'm gonna name names, I'm gonna tell you what everyone's been doing," it'd be the end of it.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Let me just point out regarding the Zoom. Andy won it, 4,500 views on 27th from not from Aberdeen. He's won the 100 quid.
Injustice, mate. Fix robbery.
How can it be a
isn't that
fix?
what isn't that what we normally do in boxing? Robbery.
I know,
Don't,
yeah.
don't
Well,
listen. Yeah, don't know what the numbers were seeing there, mate. Yeah, yeah. YouTube wants sacking.
he'll have to put a screenshot up when Gary sends him 100 quid later. Oh, it doesn't cost me, has it? It's just Gary offered out in his own pocket. He said, I'll do it out of my own pocket if you want to get a bit of interest in channel. So I said, yeah, go on then. And Andy's won it. So it is what
Well,
it
like I said to you, mate, this year you need to just jump on TikTok.
You what?
This year you just need to jump on TikTok.
I don't understand all that. I'm all on turning this on, aren't I? Getting my password in.
Mate, do you know what? Here's what I'll say to you. Block out a day tomorrow and just get used to TikTok and just see what you can do with it.
All right, we'll have a little look. We'll have a little look. Speaking of Dennis McCann, somebody were on about it in comment section. I forgot what he said, but I think somebody might have mentioned why there's not a lot of people going into bat for Dennis McCann. Well, there hasn't been a fight cancelled that was spent £1 million in it, like Ben Eubank, and he's not got a famous second name, has he? I mean, when I think the main McCann, I usually think of Terry McCann pulling up in Mark 216 Sport Capri, in Minder. That's what I think when I see the name McCann. I don't know what you think.
I think of the two parents who don't seem to understand where their
Oh,
daughter
Madeline
went all those
McCann, yeah,
years ago.
Madeline McCann, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, weird one that one.
yeah,
But in terms of him, but remember, I've always said this to you: the closer someone is to Hearn, the more boxing fans seem to hammer them, no matter what they do. If Dennis McCann was a matchroom fighter, this would have gone absolutely crazy.
yeah. It would have done, yeah, it would have done because there's been people
Yeah,
watch, haven't there?
yeah, there'd have been no question this would have gone absolutely crazy if this was a Hearn fighter. And that's kind of the world Eddie Hearn's created for himself, whereby you're almost detrimental being stood next to him. He's just not a guy you want to be stood next to because it's not great for your reputation. Do you know what I mean? But I think also what Frank was smart with Porky, they just yanked him off the card. As soon as it came back adverse, pulled him straight off the card. Said, nah, he ain't fighting. And that took all the steam away because that's what fans want to see. You fail a test, you get pulled.
Yeah.
And we don't want to hear from you.
Yeah, but if it had been Moses Atome, would Bricktop have done the same thing, or would he have sent Michigan Dale Rayner, big heavyweight lawyers in to bat for him?
I think Frank's got no choice now because of what he said about Conor Ben. He has no choice but to pull everybody.
So that means if Moses Atome fails a dope test, he's going to get pulled off the show then, is he?
I'd like to think so, yeah.
Would Tyson Fury get pulled off if he failed one?
He got pulled off for 2 years before.
Well, he had three issues, didn't he? He had one of them, and
Yeah.
he told them to F off in Jim. When they came in, and Peter came in from Shop Havoc Road, he goes, "What's going on here?" And they told him. He went chasing down road after them, Peter testers, and they went, "No, he's told us to go." That was that, and that was after he'd had two other issues, one of cocaine and one were what was it, wild pig or something, wild boar. I don't know.
But that's why
Uh,
he doesn't fight under the board license, does he? Fury's not. I don't think Fury is a board license holder. Hasn't been
no,
for a long time. So
yeah,
UK can't test him.
but if he failed, would he be pulled off a show? I'm not so sure, Terry.
I just don't think there's a choice anymore. But then it comes down to this, Russell. How much do boxing fans care? I don't think they do. I think a failed drugs test is just an excuse to give a kick into a fighter you don't like.
Yeah,
And look, Tony Bell used a perfect example of that, right? When it's not his mates, he's got a lot to say. When it is his mates, we all got to wait for the facts and the information.
yeah. He said about Canelo, if you remember back in the day, and then Eddie signed him, and he soon piped down, didn't he?
Mate, he knows what side his bread's buttered on, doesn't he?
Yeah. Do you know what? I feel sorry for Tony actually because I sat and watched him the other day during the Matchroom Boxing Christmas gathering. And he was there with all the Matt Barker and all them other people, them gimps from the Matchroom headquarters. And he looked to me like he didn't want to be there. you know.
But he's a bit out of place, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, like he's probably the only scouser in that group, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, he were very vocal when Awara Davis got something muddled up about some comment he said about a newspaper. They were all vocal then, weren't they? Him and, ladies and gentlemen, the Smiths, the Beatles of boxing.
Yeah, that was embarrassing on their behalf. Like they just jumped on it without letting the young man explain his position. And
Who weren't even born at the time.
exactly, it was sad. That was actually sad because, and I've spoken to O'Hara so many times since. Weird enough, we were talking over Christmas about that he's got a few property deals he's trying to get moving. So God bless him. You know, he's managed to get his life right. But around that whole incident, he's like, I didn't even know what Hillsborough was.
Yeah, it'd be a bit like me saying something about Ibrox, wouldn't it? That happened about when I were born, wasn't it? Or a couple of months after I were born. Do you know the disaster that were up in Scotland
Yeah.
after that game? If I said something about that, it'd be like something like that, wouldn't it? Where I don't really know about it. Obviously, I do now, and I've studied it, but At the
And
I'd
if
have
you
said
remember,
something like that, nobody would have said, well, he wasn't even born, or pardon?
yeah, but also remember us, like he didn't even mention Hillsborough. He just said the Sun.
Yeah. Well, if you remember, I put a video out and it had Paul Smigger Smig, aka Smigger's Titties, and it had Tony the Bell End Bellew on the undercard of a show sponsored by The Sun. Do you remember back in the day
Yep.
when Bricktop had his column in The Sun? We're not going back that far, and they was on that show, and we're probably talking about 20 year after Hillsborough. So it were all right for them to take money from Bricktop, who was sponsored by The Sun, wasn't it, Tony and Paul?
Mate, life's always better in the sun. Wasn't that their logo for years? Life's always better in the sun. But
Yeah,
look,
well,
just remember us. Boxers live in the moment. Wherever they can get some attention, some money, some female, whatever, they'll just put themselves there.
yeah.
There's no notion that they're not loyal to anyone. They always talk about how they get.
Loyalty, my bond, my word is made of oak.
That's why that's why Russ, when you hear me talk, I never feel sorry for boxers. I never do because they'd sooner sell a trainer out, they'd sooner sell a manager out as soon as it would be the other way around. You know what I mean?
Old
So
friend.
yeah, mate, it's a dirty game.
You know what Dennis once said to me? Right, this is a true story. This me and Dennis. Right, this is after this. I remember it. I remember it clear as day. It was Friday. Oh, Dennis always locks up. He don't take keys or an alarms. He leaves that to everybody else. He just always walks out 4:30 on a Friday. He says, "Come on, let's go get pissed." So we went out and got pissed. And he pulled me and he said, "Stop siding with fighters in meetings." So what are you on about? I said, "They didn't ring." He says, "You need to stop it." That's why he says, "Sooner or later, you're going to come to me, Russell, and you're going to say, 'Do you know what, Dennis?' He's a brass him." And he'll say, "I told you." And he were right, you know. He used to say, "Stop siding with them all the time. Don't get too close to them because they will stick a knife in you as look at you. They're using you to get to me." And he used to say that to me all the time. And I used to say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he were right, you know. And I look back now and I think he had it nailed to a T. And Dennis don't respect fighters, you know, just like Bricktop. They don't get too close to them. They make out they do, but when the push comes to the push, they don't give a shit about fighters. The same as the fighters, they don't give a shit about the boxers. They just smack out, they do. And it took me a while to realise that. Do you know what I mean?
It depends. I know this from having spoken to some of these guys. There's certain people that they do get on with, and you can put them in a box. They're the people who you never see turn down a fight.
You mean like
But
Clinton Woods? He's the only person I've ever known who's gone from day one to the end with one promoter. Can somebody else tell me somebody else who's done that? There ain't many, is there, Terry?
nah,
You know, there
nah.
ain't many that can say they went from day one the Pine Grove to finished off with on a Don King show in America, didn't he?
Yeah,
From day dot.
but you know why that is, Russell, right?
Because fighters are brassers. It's the bottom line, isn't
No,
it?
so two things happen. You see, when there's nothing in the pot, right? Boxers forget that they're being subsidized. Probably for the first 15 fights of their career, they're being subsidized. So they carry on training, they get a little purse or whatever, but they don't realize that the promoter's losing money on them at this point. But
Exactly.
the promoter is then going, well, I need to make this money back. And then you get to the big fights, and then the other boxer's like, well, why is he taking money off of me at this point? And the promoter's like, well, remember back at fight number 7 when you didn't have money for your bills and stuff? I'm getting my investment back. And then people get in a boxer's ear and they say, he can't do that. He shouldn't be doing that. And then fighters think there's this big injustice when there isn't. Like, boxing's like the music industry, right? Loads of music comes out, but only about 20% of music is profitable. The rest of it's loss making. And you need that 20% to cover the losses of the 80%, or you don't have a music industry. It's the same with boxing. You need a Tyson Fury to subsidize all the guys coming through. Tyson Fury's success right now is subsidizing Moses Talma's rise. And then when Moses gets to Tyson's position, he's going to subsidize someone else coming through. But
Yeah.
boxers are never taught this when they come through. So they're always surprised that the promoter is taking more money at the top than he did at the bottom. And I find that
Yeah.
really weird that we don't educate boxers about that. But that's where most of the noise comes from.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story here. You remember Jamie McDonnell?
Yeah.
He'd had two draws. Were it two losses and a draw? I think he'd had two losses and a draw. They were only rate one of them were a bad decision against Chris Edwards, and one were a split. And I think he'd had a draw, something like that. Anyway, Pete Belt, Jim Screw at Lindholm Prison, right? He's from Hatfield, Pete Belt. Pete Bell took Jamie McDonnell to Dennis, right? And he had note at the time. He was on Skid Row pulling mothballs out in his pockets. I've got a kid here, Dennis. I reckon it's real deal. Dennis went 13-0 with that kid, right? British, Commonwealth, European, and a world title. He did 300 grand in on the show. I'm not saying this because I felt sorry for Dennis at the time, but I've actually seen the paperwork. He'd done 300 grand in on that show, right, at Doncaster Rovers Football Club, and he said, "Don't worry, I'll get that back." That's what he was telling people. I'll get it back. He had Chris Smedley driving round Doncaster Town Centre in a car with one of them things, that you shout, vote, them like a tannoy thing. Chris were driving round Donny Town Centre and round Doncaster trying to get tickets for this show, right? It's just something typical Dennis would do. Like he had them lads from Sheffield going around Vegas beating drum. There's only one Ricky Hatton, making out that it were like there were hundreds of thousands there when really there weren't. But they created loads of noise, didn't they?
Yeah.
And the Vegas media ran with it. 30,000 invaded. Do you know how many planes that would take to get to Vegas? 30,000 people. So there weren't 30,000, but they created that much noise that they wanted them back all the time, didn't they? Well, Dennis did a fortune in on McDonnell. But they went 13-0, and when it push come to push, after they won world title, he just jacked in and went to Eddie Hearn. But Dennis got him leased Mercedes. He put him on wages. He had him flying him to Jersey. He had him all over the world. Everywhere he went with it, picking up every tab for years, mate. And look what he went and did. And that's boxers when they get somebody in their head. And what's he doing now? Plastering.
You see, because what happens normally is this: someone goes, "Look, Eddie's got a deal for you," and McDonnell might just be like, "Nah, but Dennis has looked after me," and there'll be someone in this camp that just goes, "Forget Dennis, yeah, he's only going to rip you off anyway. This is the future." That's what someone would have said, and then Jamie would have been like, "Yeah," then because it's all the other people that eat off this that want it to happen, and that's the
Yeah.
sad bit about all of it, mate. Like you have look, boxers are like human pawns in this big chess game. You know, if I train five boxers and I'm trying to get a world title fight for one of them, I might offer up one of my prospects. Yeah, because I'm doing what's best for me and my reputation and my stable, not necessarily what's best for the individual. It's horrible, mate. It is horrible. But boxers don't surround themselves with the right people, and when they get around the right people, they often don't want to be around them because they want to be around people they looked up to. Like,
Yeah.
like I see how boxers are around people like Anthony Joshua, and it's embarrassing sometimes because they fall inside this hero worship mode, even if they're the same age. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's weird. But I mean, it's a sport of insecure men. So what can you expect?
Yeah. Okay. Now that the dust settled regarding Fury, Bricktop's obviously he's been going into bat for him now for a couple of weeks, hasn't he, Fury? But now that the dust settled, Talksport have just had Bricktop on just now. They're going on about did Fury cheat with his shorts up? Obviously, Bricktop's gone into bat for him. But what did you make of it? Were the shorts? Were he trying to hide the fat on his body, or were it gamesmanship, or what were going on mind games, Terry?
Um, it doesn't matter where you put your shorts. What the referee will do is when he sees them, he might pull them down, or he will say anywhere below here is fine. The referee will determine where you can hit. And if he feels that you're getting an unfair advantage by having the padded bit of your groin protector, on your abdomen, he will pull the shorts down.
It was high
So
though. They were. I mean, it were really high, weren't they?
um, they weren't as high as they were in the changing room. Thank God for that. But they were high enough. Yeah,
Hmm.
And that is that part tactical? Yes, because he's got a longer torso. But like I said, the referee will police all that stuff. You're not going to pull one over on especially experienced referees. They'll know what you're doing. And in the final analysis, it didn't help him anyway.
Well, it don't matter really now for Fury, does it really? Because he's loaded and he's got more money than Stock Aitken and Dennis Waterman, hasn't he?
Well, we don't know. We we don't know. Like it may turn out that I mean he's had to you know look after people.
Like MTK and that, and Mick Hennessy and whatnot.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of people who are eating off of these purses.
Hmm. Do you think Bricktop's ever done it with the Fury was robbed narrative?
No, because he's got to keep money in Tyson, hasn't he? Like until Fury retires, they have to keep as much money in him as possible. So we're still close enough to that fight to see it as a pretty one-sided result. I don't care what anyone says; it was pretty one-sided, and we go from that. And as long as Frank keeps saying this stuff, we'll start to think the fight was actually closer than it was because no one's really going to go back and watch that fight 6 months from now, are they? So by then we'll go, oh well, Fury narrowly lost to Usyk, so him fighting Joshua, who also narrowly lost to Usyk. Now there's still guys in their prime. That's really what this is. That's just marketing.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, Jonathan sent me a question. When you have Terry on again, ask him, Terry, Levi's or Lee Cooper? I'm assuming that's jeans.
Mate, like number one, get your style game up. Like, why are you still wearing granddad jeans? Do you know what I mean?
Lee Cooper flares like Jack Regan in the Sweeney, on his day off.
Yeah, like who even wears Levi's, man? Like, I mean, level up. It's 2025. Like,
I think
get some
he's
proper
about
shit.
my age, though, Jonathan Terry.
Oh, in that case, yeah, I can't speak to that age. I don't,
Levi in it out of them two, in it.
mate. I don't know. There's some granddad jeans for me, man. There's definitely granddad jeans.
How old are you now, Terry? About 35?
Nah, my hell, man. Nah, nearly 43.
43, good man. Uh, IFL have given Sky Nicholson the IFL Female Fighter of the Year award. But if you look online, she's way behind what Natasha Jonas has done, Terry Harper, and Katie Taylor this year. Do you agree, or has Coogan given it to her because she's regarded as Eddie's bit of fluff?
Um, I think you know the answer to that one, mate. Like, what do you call that? Those sorts of people that you call them lickers.
Yeah, lickers, mate. Monitor lizards.
Yeah, that's what that is. That's just keeping your source of revenue happy. Because if you look at what Hearn's doing now, he's doing less with IFL. Like
Yeah,
IFL don't have that monopoly like they used to have.
yeah.
Do
Umar's
you,
got the bricktop monopoly, though, hasn't he? And Flexen.
yeah. Do you remember when Hearn tried to do it all in house? Like all his interviews are happening on Matchroom, and that just didn't work.
Yeah,
So he was like, let me go back to these people I just upset.
yeah. Yeah, I remember when he gave up cold shoulder, a few of them, and then he went back, didn't he?
Yeah, he was like, oh, we're just going to do it all in house now. There's no point in giving these
Only
views to
because he
people.
wanted all fuel money for himself.
I think he then realized that everyone was just buying views anyway.
Well, there's a lot of people buying views at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, a lot of snake-like behavior in terms of buying views.
Mm.
A lot of slithering.
Yeah. IFL. IFL have also put a big, massive post out on their Insta and Twitter saying Conor Benn will win a world title before end of 2025. But he did the same thing last year, didn't he?
Maybe they're just recycling tweets. I mean, keep it carbon neutral.
Just changing a 4 to a 5.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
IFL hasn't been the same since they got rid of Umar. Well, I don't know. Let me not say got rid of. Since Umar left and went on to do his own thing.
Yeah. Well, I remember when Umar were coming out with some really vile tweets not so long ago, and now all of a sudden it all seems to have been forgot about, doesn't it?
Listen, the show must go on, Porky, as you well know.
Yeah. Yeah. People are forgiving in boxing. Uh, Elmer Fudd and Ben Whittaker. Sorry, Ben Whittaker. Do they need the Rhino and the Cannonball to move forward with their careers? Because I think they do. I think them rematches have got to happen for the fans.
No, no, I don't. I don't think they do.
Yeah, well, you
Uh,
always go against the grain, don't you, Terence?
no, no, but here's why. Remember, I said this at the time, Russ. I said Ben Whittaker's got two options. He can fight Liam Cameron again, or he goes and fights Louis Edmondson for the British. Because you can't be mad if whichever one of those two he chooses, you can't be upset.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And then he can go back and go, I'm going to deal with Liam Cameron. I think at some point he must fight Liam Cameron. I don't think it needs to be next because there's the option of fighting Louis Edmondson for the British. And I think that's a winnable fight for Ben Whittaker.
Yeah.
As long as there's testing, though, because remember, Louis Edmondson was linked to Dr. Oz as well.
Hey?
Yeah, Louis Edmondson was linked to Dr. Oz.
Well, we're going to see, aren't we? But I'd like to see. Who's Ben Whittaker being trained by now? Ben Davidson.
No, no, no. I think he's got the same team. They've got their own gym now, but he's got the same team.
Don't he train one of that Olympic, what's he called now? What are they called now? Them Olympians that he were training.
Who was? Oh, the
Oh,
McCormicks.
McCormack's. What's happening with them and Ben? Are they still with Ben?
I think so. I saw them end of last year. Yeah, it all seemed pretty together. I think it's just getting them dates.
Well, what about Elmer Fudd and the Rhino? Was that gonna happen or
Nah,
what?
nah,
You think
nah.
Mark Tibbs will lose his job there?
Um, I'd like your opinion on that.
Well, I think he will. I hope he don't, because I like him, but I think he will, because I think them lot are all about money and that, and I think there'll be something going on behind the scenes, and he'll be silenced. I think I could
Okay,
be
so
wrong,
why
but I
should he
think
keep
it's
his
that
job?
mentality now. It's that mentality now, isn't it?
Wait,
These
wait,
days,
no, no,
what?
wait. Hold on. Why should he keep his job?
Well, they got the win, didn't they?
Okay, do you believe he won?
No, I think he lost by a round.
Okay, so that's meant to be Matchroom's next big heavyweight, and they haven't been able to deliver a performance that would give confidence. That's you wouldn't want if you're Saudi now, you don't want to see Johnny Fisher on there
Well,
again,
Mark Tibbs is not daft, is he? He's not behind the door, is he? So he'll know that, won't he? Him and his dad.
right? Okay, now let's go back. Not long ago, similar performance from Tommy Fletcher,
Yeah.
yeah, and he lost.
Yeah, he didn't get the decision because he's not a big ticket seller, is he?
Who was in Billy Joe's corner against Canelo?
Mark Tibbs and Ben Davidson.
And that was chaos, wasn't it?
Well, I would have thought that Billy instructed Ben to be in corner, wouldn't you? But somebody should have stood up and said, we don't want him there. There'd be too many mouths talking in between rounds, wouldn't there?
Yeah, and there was utter chaos, wasn't there?
It was chaos, yeah, basically. I felt sorry
So,
for Mark.
so at what point, Russ, being the voice of hardcore boxing,
Yeah.
are people going to start asking the same questions of him that were asked of Caldwell, that were asked of McGuigan, that were asked of Gallagher, that were asked of all these other trainers? He has never been questioned, has he?
No, because he doesn't brass himself out, does he? Like Ben Davison does on social media, does he? And
He kind of does. He does. He shows up when he needs to. He's active on social media with some opinions, but no one has ever questioned him. And this is what I'm trying to say. In
yeah,
boxing, we talk about Campbell Hatton not deserving the opportunity he got. He only got it because of his old man, right? That's the general story around Campbell Hatton. It's the same story around Conor Benn. It was the same story around Eubank Jr. But interestingly enough, it wasn't the same story around Michael Hennessy Jr. It wasn't the same story around Fran Hennessy. It wasn't the same story around Mark Tibbs, right? There are people who seem to get away with it from boxing fans, and there are people who don't get away with it. McGuigan wasn't
them that
allowed to
get
get away
hammered.
with
Do
it.
you think them that get hammered are quite vocal on social media, and them that are quiet don't?
Shane McGuigan's not that vocal. Not he's ish, but nothing out of the ordinary. And when Shane does talk, he doesn't really say anything inflammatory.
Yeah,
But people are still like, you're only in your position because of Barry. All these champions later, they still say that. Mark has never had his collar felt. No one has ever said, why are you still allowed to train people? And I'm not saying whether he should or he shouldn't. I'm just saying that there's no consistency in what the rule is.
yeah.
And the same with the Hennessy kids. Like, no one ever questioned the Hennessy kids. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve their place. I'm not saying that. What happens in the ring will determine that. I'm just saying boxing fans have different views. Yeah. There are certain people who are allowed to be in the sport because their parents were in. Then there's certain people where people go, you don't deserve it.
Do you think Mark
That's what I have an issue
pass
with.
because of his? Is he getting a pass because of what his dad's achieved? Do
I think so.
you think Dominic has been hammered over years? Dominic,
More than Mark Tibbs, and Dominic has achieved a lot more.
yeah, but yeah, I see where you're coming from. But Dominic's had 3 people fail on his watch, hasn't he? Dope tests.
How many? Who was training Dillian when Dillian failed the first time? Second time, sorry. Wow, imagine that having to pick the
I
occasion.
think Mark Tibbs were training Dillian for the River Spike Warrior. I'm not sure about the Joshua one though.
Yeah. So, but you see the point I'm making. The things you can level at other trainers, you can level at Mark, and no
Yeah,
one ever stops.
Mark Tibbs never got hammered over that, but Dominic got hammered. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I like Mark Tibbs though, don't I? But we're talking training fighters here. Maybe Fisher just had a bad night. I don't know. He didn't look to me
No,
like listening in corner, did he? You?
mate, he looked out of his depth. But like, because Dave was in sparring mode, and if Dave's being honest, he'll admit that Dave was in sparring mode. Dave was just throwing like.
He was just having fun, Dave. Wasn't he? It looks of it.
That's what I'm saying to you. He was throwing what I call disrespectful shots. Like if I'm going to throw double uppercuts at someone, it tells me I don't rate them.
Yeah.
I know that he hasn't got the boxing IQ to understand what I'm doing now, so he can't even counter me. I'm just having fun in here. Remember we talked about this before Christmas, Russ, and I said,
yeah,
you could see Dave talking to him like, mate, like I can't make you look good if you don't do anything.
yeah. Okay. Yard and Tunde. Think they've been frozen out?
They're in an absolute mess, mate. They're in an absolute mess. Like they should have just stuck to Frank. You know, as soon as Frank got those Saudi days, they should have stuck to him like glue.
They're in no man's land, aren't they, at that age as well, aren't they? He's going stale yard, isn't he?
Yeah, Frank won't have him in Saudi. You know, I hear all this talk that Tunde and that was saying, he's a free agent, he can make this fight, that fight. And from what I'm hearing on the Queensbury side, Frank's like, cool, but where's he going to do these fights? Not on my platform, not with anything I've got access to. So where's he going to do this and make the money?
Is it Tunde that's fell out with Frank more than Yard? Because Yard looks to me like he's a nice kid. Comes across as a nice kid, doesn't he? Well spoken and softly spoken and that.
That'll be interesting to know whether Anthony and Frank have spoken. Because normally what happens is the fighter stays a little bit away and it's the manager that does all the talking. Now, I don't know who got in their ear and said, look, you're a free agent. You can do this, you can do that. But they were wrong. The only people who can be free agents are what I call the money men. And not just in a division, in the sport. Mayweather could have been a free agent, but he wasn't really, was he?
No.
David Haye could have been a free agent, but he wasn't really, was he?
No.
Anthony Yarde's not at that level.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's not at that level where he could have made those demands because he's only really got 2 fights, right? He's got a Boatsi fight and
Callum Smith.
maybe a Bivol fight at a push if he wins against Boatsi. That's it. Then what?
Yeah. Callum Smith against Yard's a good fight, though, isn't it?
Nah, not really.
No.
Remember, a
Okay.
year ago, Baturbia played with Callum Smith.
Okay. I'm hearing good things about George Warren and Alfie Warren in the comments section and in emails, people bigging him up, and they seem to be going about the business quietly, don't they, them two?
So George is a businessman. George will just do those deals. And Alf, I can't speak highly enough of Alf as a person and what he does for his fighters, especially. Like there's a lot of compassion with what Alf's doing. Because he does that, part of me is like, mate, you need to lock these guys down for longer. But then the question is, do you really want to have them for longer? And that's the risk you carry, right? If I get a fighter on a long-term deal, what if he turns out to be trash? Then how do I get rid of him? And Hearn's got that problem now where he's signed a lot of guys that he's trying to get rid of. And you're going to see it over the next few months. Like when you start seeing guys like John Hedges, etc., losing, you'll know Hearn's clearing his books.
Yeah.
But Alf and that, I've got a lot of time for Alfie, and that that kind of the Bobby Warren side of the family. Really, really good people. Friendly, welcoming. Always make time for the fans of their show. So I really appreciate that. I really respect that. And then George on the Frank side, brilliant. Like I love the fact that you've got George and Francis really looking to take Queensby to another level. Do you know what I mean?
Good.
So that I think that's going to be good for the fans, and it kind of frees Frank up to do more of the talking.
Yeah. Good. Uh, David Adelaide. What next for him? Because he's just iced Dakras, hasn't he? And would you like to see him in with Fisher or Dave Allen?
That's a good question. Uh
Finish off on that one because we've done 36 minutes now. What do you think?
okay, well, we'll keep it quick then. So if you look at Johnny Fisher and David Adelaide, they both need to perfect their ring craft. Johnny more than David, because David's boxed since he was young, so he's okay, but they need to perfect their ring craft. Guys like Dave Allen are horrible to jump in with. You want someone who's not as seasoned as Dave and hasn't got the chin that Dave's got, and then build from there. Haven't they mandated Adelaide versus Atalma for maybe the British? And I'm like, maybe avoid that fight. I mean, keep
That's a
both guys
vacant.
apart.
That'd be a vacant belt then, surely. If Fabio's vacated.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's see what happens with that. But probably not the right fight for David Adelaide, but
I
it'll
thought he
work
were
for Moses.
English champion him, Adelaide.
Yeah. So then that will put him in position to fight for the British against the Talma.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay then. Well, do you see Adelaide beating Atoma?
No.
No, he's that good,
Nah.
yeah.
Yeah. Southpaw. That complicates it as well. Southpaw really active, got a lot of power to him. Yeah. Yeah. It's not good. Nice work.
Okay, okay. Do you want to do a part two?
Well, we're here now. Why not? Yeah.
All right, then I'll send you a link. Do you want to make it in at about quarter past, Terry?
Cool. No worries, mate.
See you at quarter past then, yeah?
No worries.
Cheers, kid. Right.
All right, bye.
Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment and sharing the videos. We'll see you in part two in a minute where we're going to have to get in close. Pop, pop, bang.